Jeff McGovern is going to be discussing flashlights, all on this edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek Podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek Podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business. Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. I am your host, Frank Hernandez, discussing all things pests. Hey, we're going to get into some flashlight action with Jeff McGovern. Before that, I want to notify all of the listeners, hey, to join in on the conversation. We got a listener group on Facebook, Pest Geek Podcast Listeners. So go ahead and look for that and go ahead and join the group, join the discussion, what's going on. Hey, visit us on our website at pestgeekpodcast.com. We've got a new section. There's a blog section. There's a lot of things going on there. We've got videos to show you that if you're interested in some of the things going on, you can scan through the videos. We got some news. So a lot of things going on the website that you want to stay in touch with. And also join us on our Facebook page. We got a Facebook page on Facebook. So without further ado, hey, Jeff, go ahead and take it away.
Greetings, Pest Geek Podcast listeners. This is Jeff McGovern, otherwise known as the Pest Coach. What we're going to talk about very briefly today are flashlights. Because without good flashlights, we can't see, and frankly, we can't do our jobs. And I've often spoken about this at meetings, and I think that our industry may indeed be the largest daily user of flashlights in the world because we don't just carry them. A lot of folks carry flashlights and hardly use them. But in our case, we tote them and use them every single day, virtually every place we go, at least I hope so. Now, flashlights themselves have come a long way. If you go back into the late 1800s, well, we didn't have flashlights, but we had the new, fantastic kerosene lanterns. And if you were in the mining industry, possibly a carbide lamp. Flashlights themselves came about in the early 1900s, and that's where the name came from. The name flashlight, because the battery technology wasn't very good. Bulbs were, well, frankly, as good as they could get, and they were really delicate. And you would flash the light on and off for a few moments at a time because, frankly, that's all it lasted for. And then as time passed, we got a little bit better with that. And we got through the teens, the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, World War II, and we had pretty good flashlights. Typically, they were D-cell. The most common for the working man was 2D cells. The bulbs, yeah, they worked okay. You had good reflectors. You had a little bit of shadow in the bulb. They weren't all that tough. Now, my first flashlight was a Bright Star professionally. Yellow plastic, had a pretty durable bezel on it, hard, tough body, had a protected switch, and it used 2D cells, and I had a spare battery in the tail cap. I felt pretty studly with that light. I could hang it from my belt on a little leather strap, and you could pull it out with the dexterity of somebody like a gunfighter in the Old West. The light was decent, but it was the best we had, and I used it for quite a while. I carried spare batteries, usually half a dozen in my bug truck, and I also carried spare bulbs, because if I dropped it or banged it too hard, they would break. Well, I moved on from that to a light called a Kell light. The Kell light was one of the first aluminum flashlights, early 1970s vintage, and that was followed by a B light, which was actually a flashlight created and marketed by the Bianchi Leather Company, which at the time made a lot of equipment for police and military, leather holsters. And then about that time, I discovered another light. It was Mag Light Instrument Company that made them. And mag lights were really the first vastly popular available for everybody aluminum-bodied flashlight that was made at the time. They came in C-cell, they came in D-cell, and eventually they came in AA. So you always had a flashlight available that you could carry with you all the time. Now, they weren't particularly bright compared to what we have today, but they worked fine. They had pretty good beams because they were adjustable. So we could get rid of the shadow that had been in all the previous lights and make it a constant clear beam that we could see. And professionally, especially if you were in the pest control business, you normally carried a 3-cell mag light. Oh, it was also a Rat Bat Supreme. And if you were a real big-time heavy-duty technician, you carried a 7-cell mag light, which was also a self-defense weapon if you were in a dark alley late at night faced by something larger than a rat. But from there, I was always looking for something more compact and available for daily carry because that little AA mag light, while really cool, wasn't all that bright and didn't do everything I needed. And I found a company called Laser Products. Laser Products eventually became Surefire. Now, their first commonly available flashlight that was mass marketed was a 6P. The 6P used two 123A lithium batteries for power. Those are actually, at the time, a battery we use for cameras, high-end electronics. It gave reliable power. Lithium batteries were also somewhat less affected by cold because the older flashlight batteries were always affected by cold. And the other thing that Laser Products did, Maglite was the first to give us a flashlight bulb that was cooled by a gas. It was halogen. Brighter light because the actual filament was protected. Laser Products / Surefire upped it to xenon gas cooling. Wow! We're talking the sun in the palm of your hand. It was unbelievable. The Secret Service at the time, and this would have been late 80s, early 90s, carried Surefire 6Ps because they fit down in the pocket of their suit coat. The only problem was, if the light got turned on in your pocket, it'd get hot enough to either burn its way through the fabric or melt its way through your pouch. Good, solid lights. They burned for about an hour. The batteries were expensive. The xenon gas bulbs were expensive. But time marches on. And Surefire got into LEDs. And about the time Surefire was getting into LEDs, I started visiting their factory in Southern California and had the privilege of meeting a man by the name of Paul Kim. Paul Kim was the god of all things flashlight, and in the industry, he was revered. And through knowing Paul, I was able to get into a lot of the early LED flashlights, including the UV LED flashlights that we use today for rodent urine and things such as that. And then Paul left Surefire. I was still looking for improvements, and I found a company called First Light in Illinois. For those of you that had seen me at meetings, the light that's in my chest pack is a First Light flashlight of the Tomahawk style. It's a hands-free light. It has varying intensities. It does everything I need it to do. You can also get them with UV and blood light if you like. But the thing is, right now, what we need as pest control operators is flashlights that give us adjustable light. They give us a clean beam. They give us good throw and good focus. Now, a lot of those things are done automatically for us today because with the quality of the LEDs and the quality of the reflectors, we simply have better lights. I like what First Light does because I can vary the intensity. Ideally on low, I may be running 40 to 60 lumens. I can pump that up with the adjustable range on the light to over 500. Now, another new company that's come on board with a light that's from offshore is Olight. Olights are very good because some of them are tiny. They have a very small, durable headlight, but there's a lot out there in a lot of different price ranges, and everybody's going to have their personal preference. the most important thing is get a flashlight that fits you and fits what you do. You want to carry it with you all the time. You want it to be convenient. And frankly, when it comes to flashlights, I have a rule. 1 is none and 2 is 1. Remember that. 1 is none and 2 is 1. Always have a backup. There's a lot of quality on the market today. There's a lot of price ranges you can choose from. As I said, pick a light that fits you and get 2 of them. 1 is none, 2 is 1. Have that backup. This is Jeff McGovern signing off today for the Pest Geek Podcast. This is Jeff McGovern, the Pest Coach. Take care and have a safe day on the road.
Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.